right, guys, we're back for another edition of Talking Preps. We're going into week. What week is this, Cam? Is it 5?
I think it's 5.
We're going into week 5 of the high school football season. I got Cameron Williams. I got the guru, Chris Hughes. I got Dale Ross, the historian. And just right off the bat, guys, we got some teams off to some really, really hot starts. All right, so three of the teams have caught my eyes, guys: are East Gaston, Culbertson, and Metro Atlanta Christian. East Gaston hasn't been this good since 2006. They haven't been 5-0 since 1978. And Richard Walker, my good friend in Gastonia, says they've never been 6-0. Can they keep this going, Dale?
6-0, yeah. Looking at their next 2 games, I think they can. The question is, where does it go as they dig deeper into their schedule? But yeah,
Chris, you agree?
I think, 6-0, sure. I think at a minimum, if I was to project forward, I think that they're most likely going to go 6-0, maybe 7-0, and I think at a minimum, I think they're going to go 8-2. The big monkey in the room, obviously being Burns and Shelby. But yeah, by far, this is going to be the best team they've had since Coach Greg Lloyd was there.
Did you think this was going to be the case, Chris, at the beginning of the season? Or was this a big surprise to you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Coach JT Postel, he's top shelf. He's a really good coach. He came up from Tuscola. He is from a great coaching bloodline in Western North Carolina. I had no question whatsoever knowing him as well as I have over the years, that they were going to be a good football team. And even if you look back in the past, some of the other guys that's really done a good job, like Coach Sean Joyce, he was a great coach. Eric Tippett, these were guys that really were grinding with their teams. They just had the unfortunate task of playing against some of the best conferences that were put together really against East Gaston. When you look at the conferences over the year, the Crest, the South Point, the Kings Mountains, they've never really had a good situation. So I'm really happy for them. And you know what? They beat Ashbrook last night or Friday night for the first time since 2006. And, that tells me that they've made some significant strides.
Turn the corner, beat the Greenway. Dale, not Dale. Chris.
Yeah, well, so Chris, like I said Friday night, I just want to.
My notes in front of me.
I wanted to piggyback on that. I think a great coach or a very, very, very good coach can take most teams and get them to 5 to 6 wins. That's that base number of wins is all about organization and unity. It's all about team. And then it gets better as your talent rises, et cetera. So I think this is an indicator that they have a good organization right now as a team.
All right, Chris, down in Union County, Duke Howell was known as, Sam's OC when he was at Sun Valley, ran up almost every record there is in Union County. Now he's got Culbertson off to the best start in school history. They're 4-0. Does that surprise you?
No, Cuthbertson's always had a good program. I look back to when Coach David Johnston was there before he left to go to South Carolina. He really had Cuthbertson competing week in, week out. It's not that long ago they had a quarterback that went off to Oklahoma. So, again, that's a program that has always had good talent. They're 4-0. They haven't really played anybody great yet. I do think that the shutout win over Palisades was very a good-looking win. But they've also got a chance. They got 6 straight games coming up. This is going to be really tough. South Caldwell is going to be really angry coming in off a loss this week. They should be able to get over that game. But you look at their schedule, moving forward, you got Porter Ridge, Sun Valley, Weddington, the best of the best of the
all
best.
All those Union County rivals. Yeah.
Tough.
Yeah. And Cam, let's stay in Union County. Metro Atlanta Christians 4-0. They've only given up 14 points all season. Are they going to be a team that makes some noise in the playoffs? They don't have to play the Providence Days and the Arabian Gaps when they get there. They're going to be a team that can make some noise and maybe challenge, say, a Cannon for a state championship.
Yeah, I definitely think they can. I think this is a team that, like you mentioned, their defense is very strong right now. They're 4-0. They hadn't played, outstanding teams to this point yet. But I think any defense that can hold opponents to about 14 points through 4 games, that's pretty doggone good. So I think they'll definitely be able to compete for a state championship, come November and December.
I think it's cool, Dale, that we're talking about teams, not the heavyweight names we're always saying, but some fresh names, fresh faces, to use Sam Grander's term. It's cool to talk about some of these teams like that haven't had traditional success, right?
I think so. I think it's good to hear fresh teams. Yeah. We can call them
fresh
teams that we don't normally hear about. Chris mentioned a little bit ago about East Gaston beating Ashbrook, and I happened to be talking last week about how it's a shame how Ashbrook has really fallen off from,
Mm.
back in their days. But it's good to see East Gaston back in the discussion.
Yeah.
That is really, really nice.
Yeah, thanks for that comment. It should be fun watching these guys the rest of the year. We'll be right back after this break. Make sure to get yourself some Deer Park water, and we'll be back with 3 questions.
Deer Park is celebrating its 150th anniversary.
Deer Park? That's good water.
You can taste how pure Deer Park is.
Deer Park, that's good water.
Deer Park, that's still good water.
All right, we're back with 3 questions. Grice, is something that you brought to my attention this week. Down in South Carolina, some schools won't play Gray Collegiate and say they're too good. Could that happen in North Carolina?
I mean, and I always love hearing Dale whenever we talk about the Catholic situation. And to me, 'cause I think Langston, I randomly called you. I think it was like a Wednesday, and I just think the first thing out of my mouth was like, "Why are we not talking about this?" What you have in this situation, just to give some context, are conference members that are choosing to forfeit their game against Gray Collegiate, basically stating, "We're not playing you because we don't feel like that you're in our association and not operating under the same rules, creating an unfair competitive advantage." Well, if they have to forfeit all of those games and can't find opponents, then they effectively would be done now as they're entering conference. I think they've done a good job of bringing or finding opponents here at the last minute, but I definitely think this may trickle over to North Carolina, especially as we expand into 7 classes and create additional potential competitive disadvantages where you have teams that are dominating. It's something, I don't look across the border too much, but it was one thing I thought that I noticed that I was like something that could trickle over here.
Dale, with this voucher program, there's probably going to be more charter schools being built. Do you think this could be an issue? Do you agree with Grace?
Do I think it could be an issue?
Yeah.
I don't think the voucher program impacts charter schools. It's more of an impact into kids going to private schools because we need to learn more. But the charter schools do have the lottery points, so you couldn't take your voucher and just buy yourself a seat.
I guess my question though is, do you see a day when regular public schools will not want to play charter in private schools because they have an advantage, like they're doing in South Carolina?
Right now, I don't think so, because I don't believe there's really a huge advantage. And I don't know that the state legislature is going to allow something to boil into a big advantage with charter schools, because charter schools are public schools. So I don't think so.
If schools didn't boycott when independents had their run, I don't see them boycotting now.
But it's a different thing, though, Gary. It's not like everybody still felt like independence was great. They felt that it operated on a high level, and it's different being in the highest classification. You're not going to argue that Great Collegiate is a 2A program. That is a team with having that are allowed to get. I think that they're allowed to get kids within 25 miles of their program, and that's okay. But when they're playing other 2A schools, and you can think about some of the 2A schools around here, you can have a situation where they have a team which doesn't seem great. It sounds very much like when people complain about Catholic and 3A. Honestly, it sounded like that conversation when that was going on.
Gary, would this happen in North Carolina? Can you see a day when somebody says, "You know what, I'm not playing School X because that 25-mile radius thing is just too much for me"?
Not in the public schools. I think you could see it, public versus private, but I don't see it happening in public schools.
Okay. Let's go to my second question. Grice, coming back to you. As South Carolina's closing in on a statewide NIL policy, what would you like to see in the North Carolina version if we ever get one?
I mean, I just think the biggest thing is protecting kids, and I don't want us to go too far down the rabbit hole, because it then becomes an even worse situation of just people grabbing for little money, where they can get it. I always kind of tell people, I've had friends I know in states that have it, that it's allowed, where they're looking at, oh, my son's worth this or that or $1,000 or $2,000, and I mean, some of that may be good in the short term, but it's like, let's not put yourself in a situation to forego bigger money or bigger packages or things when you get into the collegiate level. And then we're even seeing a story that came out where someone had signed a deal where someone in the future is entitled to their earnings on a go-forward basis.
That was in Florida.
Right. And so, things like that, it's like you always be careful whenever we introduce business into, with young men, and then also with young men who aren't equipped or don't have the experts around them. The thing with pros, the thing with college, in worst case in college, you got a buddy that's a law student or something, or someone you can tap into there that can provide you some of that background knowledge to be successful. I don't want to see kids getting taken advantage of, which this does have the power to open. If they can get their money, I'm all for that. But you see too many times with high school kids where people are taking advantage of.
The average NIL deal for high school students, Gary, was $60 according to the research we've seen. I do think there's a potential for some of the athletes that we have in this area. We got some basketball players in the top 20 in the country. We have some star football players like a Jaden Davis that could, potentially accrue a lot more money. But I do think by and large, most of these NIL deals in North Carolina, if we have them, is going to be like the quarterback at Vandy's getting a deal that to go eat for free at, Dale's Crab Shack or something like that. But what do you think needs to be in place if and when we get one?
Here's where the problem is going to come in. The legislature can pass laws that affect public schools, but they really can't get at NIL when it comes to private schools.
That's correct.
So the private schools would be able to, they wouldn't be under the same guidelines as the public schools.
So they say, come on over is what you're saying.
Yeah, right. The public schools would probably be capped as to how much a student could make or how much an athletic program could take in. Mm-hmm. In the private schools, it would be capitalism, free enterprise. And that would be the selling point to get public school kids to transfer into private schools. Hey, you can only make $100 at your school. You can make $1,000 at our school. And that's where the problem is going to come in, because the legislature can't legislate what private schools do.
Dale?
Gary hit one of the issues. Both Gary, if you combine Gary and Grice's thoughts, I have to understand that I have to evolve my thinking. And if this is the way things are going, I'm all for it. Get the money. I want to maintain the integrity of the game, the integrity of the kids. And I do worry that kids will be taken advantage of. In North Carolina, Gary's dead on. The legislature will set bounds as to how much one can make, but private schools are going to be wide open. And what great kid, if you start tossing money around, what great kid's not going to try to move over to? What great parent? Well, true, but kids are getting smart too now. And in a lot of situations, kids may actually direct this more than the parents. So the parents are probably give, but the kids are the ones that everybody's going to be in contact with. And I worry about it sucking kids over to private.
Interesting topic. Now, staying on the private schools, I was going to throw this to Dale, but I want to throw this at Gary. Gary, can Providence Day get so good that soon teams will say, we're not going to play them? Private school teams in their conference, private school teams in their state. Will they get so good to the point they say, we don't want them in conference, we don't want them in state?
I hope not. I think, a run like they're having right now goes in cycles. There have been other dominant private schools, and not just in football, but basketball as well. I think it runs in cycles, and Providence Day is in a good cycle right now.
We've never had a private school team be ranked number one like this in the middle of the season, much less be ranked number one in the Carolinas. This is not. I disagree with Gary. I don't think we've seen this before. What do you think?
So Langston, I know I talked with a board member when they hired Harden, and the goal was at Providence Day to play a national schedule. They wanted to get the program built to a level that they would play a national schedule. That was a goal. So they couldn't achieve that under Harden, but Greer has been able to get the team at that kind of level. I do think that private schools, as Providence Day pulls in more people, and this voucher thing allows more kids to come over, and who knows, the NIL, it's going to set a huge disadvantage for some of the other privates. Now they
They
may
start an arms
gain
race,
some
though. They start an
as
arms race.
well, right? So it may start an arms race in the private schools, and we may have multiple great private schools in North Carolina. But I got a feeling it's going to impact the ones that are small and can't get into that arms race, and they'll not want to play because they'll just be outgunned. So I don't know. The arms race thing makes me think a little differently, that privates will still play because they're going to be able to also get their nuclear weapons, if you will.
They're shiny new
So,
toys. That's what we say on this show. Shiny new toys.
they're shiny new toys.
Grace,
Exactly.
I'm dying to hear what you got to say about this topic, Grace.
I don't know if it will get to a point where they'll, kick them out or refuse to play them, because I do think there's some history there. Like I couldn't imagine a day in which Latin and Country Day and Charlotte Christian all aren't playing each other. If we get to that point, then we're in a sad state.
Country Day and Catholic don't play each other anymore.
You said what?
Country Day and Catholic don't play each other anymore. That was the longest running private school rivalry.
I can understand. I understand too. And I mean, again, I don't think that's any. I don't feel any better about that either. For me, I think it's a situation in which Providence Day is going to get to the point where I don't think the team's going to stop playing. They may still play them, but it's just like they're going to be too big for what they're doing if they stay on this current trajectory. I mean, I think you're seeing this to where pretty much any kid that they seem to want is available to them in the city.
But but Grice, you're a football coach. If you're a young, talented middle school kid and you see this team on national television, you see them at Bank of America Stadium, you see number one quarterback, number one offensive lineman, they got another offensive lineman who's number 6 in the country in the sophomore class. You see all that, and you go over there and you see the fans and the atmosphere, and then you see the weight room, you see the facilities. Isn't that a hard thing not to say yes to?
Oh, it is. I mean, I don't think from that standpoint that only. I mean, there are other great atmospheres. There's still other great teams. I mean, we've talked about this year our foe, or I don't even know if it's a real, but our Renaissance, where you have Mallard Creek play Buford tough. Like they're not the only school that's doing it. And I think Chad would even tell you some of his limitations as far as enrollment and things like that. You can't take everybody, but I mean, I do think we're talking about one school in a rising tide of North Carolina football in my mind, if I'm looking across the board. So I do think it could get to a point to where they may consider it, but you got to keep playing everybody. If Country Day is still playing, they may have stopped playing Catholic, but if they're still playing Providence Day at this point, I don't see any reason why they're not going to. You all play under the same rules. I'll say it that much. Yeah. Under the same rules, under the same association. They're still in there. Play the game.
It's an interesting topic moving forward. We'll definitely keep an eye on that. And we're going to take a break right now. We're going to bring in the guru and go over the state rankings and the top games coming up. And Grice is going to break down the game of the week. Meantime, get yourself some Deer Park water.
Deer Park is celebrating its 150th anniversary. Let's take a look back.
Deer Park, that's good water.
You can taste how pure Deer Park is.
Deer Park, that's good water.
Filtered naturally beneath the earth for a crisp, refreshing taste.
Deer Park. Deer Park.
Deer Park. Deer Park.
That's still good water.
After 150 years, there's only one thing left to say. Deer Park, that's still good water.
How did you all get in here?
All right, guys, coming back to you now, talking preps, week 5 of the 2023 high school football season. We got some pretty big time games coming up this week, guys. Some of them on Thursday, some of them on Friday. So let's just kind of go through the list. You got it right there, 71st in Fayetteville coming in at 3-0. Been pretty dominant on the 3A side, taking on what I think to be a newcomer to the state polls this week at least, is Southview, inner city rival there within Fayetteville, Cumberland County. A lot of storylines to this game. Southview had a fire that really decimated the program, burnt down their field house, lost a lot of equipment, uniforms, and things a few weeks ago. And that's a team that I think is really surging. That's kind of one of the top games I see on the Friday night schedule. Looking down there, East Lincoln 3-0 against undefeated Hickory. I had a chance to see Hickory Friday night. Looking there, Southern Alamance had that big upset victory over top 10 ranked Southern Nash Friday night. They're taking on Burlington Williams. Alamance County's really got it going on football wise. We'll get to these guys' games in a minute, guys, for you guys to discuss. Looking down there at the coast, North Brunswick, a top 10 program, taking on Hoggard. James Keenan at East Duplin. West Henderson up in the mountains. West Henderson's a team that I think needs to be on a lot of people's radar. Just continues to improve every week. Just incredible what Coach Whitaker's done up there with the Falcons program. And then Ledford taking on Providence Grove, and then Thomasville at Salisbury. Guys, we'll start off that top game up top. 71st Southview. I think it's the best game Friday night. Any takers on this one? No takers. Wow. I guess we just don't have these Fayetteville guys in here, and that's fine. I'll carry the banner for that one. DeAndre Nance, he's a guy that's really stuck out for me for the 71st team. Coach McLaurin's done a great job. They were just a point away from going to the state championship game last year, and coulda, woulda, shoulda, maybe could have gotten there if they could have just found a way to get past Northern Nash and taking on that East Lincoln team who we see right up there under them. But I think this 71st team is continuing to surge, so we'll see what they do Friday night against Coach Brewington and that Southview squad. But, hey, let's talk about this Hickory Ridge game. I saw them against your old team Friday night, or the Hickory team. I saw them against your old team Friday night, Grice and Cox Mill. And, boy, they got on Cox Mill quick and fast. 35-0 at one point. Really good-looking program. They're going to have their hands full, though, against the state champions in East Lincoln Friday.
Oh, I agree. I mean, I thought, that was one thing, even though we weren't there, circling that game on the schedule actually this year with Coach Glass, I mean, you knew he was going to come down here in the Concord and really represent. And I thought, with the way that they played on the offensive side of the ball, definitely going to be interesting to see them against East Lincoln. I mean, we knew East Lincoln was going to be pretty good this year coming off of that state championship. So I think it'll be a great test to see if Hickory's ready to step into those ranks in that 3A level.
We got the scrimmage Hickory and the not scrimmage, but do a little 7-on-7 with Hickory, and Joe Glass does an amazing job. I think those guys are flying around and really buying into the culture, and you really get to see where they're at versus East Lincoln. East Lincoln has really established themselves, especially from last year. So this is a bigger game.
I like what Coach Glass does with the scheme. He's got a lot of quick guys that he's able to get out in space, but he's got a running back, number 34, and I'm sure that East Lincoln, Coach Lubowitz has looked at him on film. What's his name? Isaiah Lackey. He's 34. He's listed at like 220, 225. I guarantee you he's a little bit more than that. And he takes about 4 or 5 guys to bring down every time they give him the ball. He is not fast, but he is a bowling ball. He looks really good. Probably needs to be one of your gyms, Grice. There we go. You got New Bern, the defending state champion, still undefeated. A lot of people kind of thought that there would be gloom and doom in New Bern. They had the coaching change, lost all that talent, but they've still undefeated. They've taken on a tough Havelock team. That's 2 programs there in Craven County that had a lot of turmoil in the summer and trying to hire coaches and coaching changes and everything else. But nonetheless, they do what they do down in Craven County and they win. One of the games, though, that really intrigues me is this Southern Alamance versus Burlington Williams game. Both of them have an uncharacteristic loss. Williams lost to Eastern Guilford. Southern Alamance lost to Jordan, who we have since come to find out Jordan looks like world beaters to me, at least on film. I think that they're one of the serious contenders in the 4A East. But anybody got any thoughts on this Southern Alamance Williams game? None? All right. Well, hey, Grice, I know you follow the area here in the Piedmont area. I know Salisbury, they got that tough game against Thomasville. Salisbury in a 31-3 victory over Person County Friday night. That's a Person team that I think was really tough. I think that a lot of people saw the 60 or the 31-3 game, and for the first time in like 3 or 4 weeks, Salisbury didn't score 60. But I still nonetheless think that was a really impressive game. Any of your thoughts, Kim?
What, in the James Keenan East Duplin game?
Well, no, I mentioned the Salisbury game.
Oh, the Salisbury game. Yeah. I think this. This is definitely Salisbury's game to lose. I think they are, always competing for the 2A year in and year out. But Thomasville's not going to go down without a fight. I think this could be a very high scoring game. Salisbury, putting up around 50 points a game right now. So I mean, this is it's going to be about whose defense steps up to the task, in my opinion.
I got a little comment on this Salisbury. Darius Robinson working at West Charlotte High School. He was our JV head coach. He's taken over the offense. Salisbury. He says the athletes are amazing. His nephew is the quarterback for Salisbury, and I think that they made a lot of noise in the 7-on-7 this past summer. They competed at a very high level. I think their defense doesn't get enough credit sometimes for the athletes that they do. Like you said, taking down Person they're big and strong, and they had no problems devouring them.
31-3.
I mean, they beat them by 30 points roughly. Yeah, I mean that's a big win versus them. I think you could definitely see the only one that can match to their athleticism is probably maybe a Monroe, in that regard. But that'd be kind of a cool deal to see down the road as a Salisbury Monroe. I don't think they'll have much problem with Thomasville, honestly.
Well, we'll see. I definitely think that it's going to be a pretty good game. And again, this Salisbury team has elevated their way up to number 2 in the 2A rankings, and I definitely think that they are one of the serious contenders in the 2A ranks out of the West, at least to make it to the state championship game. Remember, Salisbury is no stranger to state championship games. Have been there twice here in about the last 5 years. So you see a lot of success out of them. But hey, I think we're going to send it over to Grice now. Grice, we got a pretty big time game of the week coming up this week. I want to let you break it down.
I always enjoy the opportunity when one of my guys is playing in the Grice's game of the week. And this week, I had to do it. West Charlotte, Mallard Creek is our game of the week this week. So it's a very intriguing game to me. I think, we've seen, Coach Griner really instill his culture in this team. And now as we're getting to a point where, he's got all of his guys, he's really entrenched over there on the west side, they're going to present an intriguing problem for Mallard Creek. Here are my 3 keys. The first one is just, will West Charlotte be able to match Mallard Creek's physicality for all 4 quarters? Make no mistake about it. West Charlotte is on par with Mallard Creek physically. The part that's going to be the key there is just the depth. I think, anytime you look at the Mallard Creek team, especially now where Tinsley's gotten this group rolling, you just look at just the sheer numbers that they have. And I think, Griner's done a great job to build up the West Charlotte program as far as numbers, but that's always your concern whenever you're battling between West Charlotte and Mallard Creek. So that's definitely going to be a key. The second one, is first to 20 points wins. I think we have 2 amazing defenses that have definitely shown their defensive power very good, as we've seen. Mallard Creek, of course, handling Buford there, and West Charlotte doing that to anybody they could find, with the talented, Monroe team amongst others, Independence as well, keeping them down there. So I definitely think that first team that gets to 20 points, and I think all 3 phases will be represented on the box score as well. So that'll be something to watch. And then, finally there, can Mallard Creek get the ball to Ben Black? Whenever you talk about guys in a game, if I have a big 22 guy on the field there, that's going to be a guy, and even in Coach Griner preparing, that's a guy that gets that ball. You got to circle his name wherever he is on the field. And I'm sure, Coach Griner's got one of his talented freshman guys wearing a Ben Black jersey this week just to ensure that they know exactly where he is on the field. Because we saw even in the Independence game that Thursday, a broken play where it's supposed to be a screen and the quarterback, Evan Rambridge, flushed out of the pocket. He knows and is going to look for his big 22 guy. So Coach Griner, and as awesome as he is on the defensive side of the ball, he's got to be aware of him, because he's the guy that can be the game breaker. And I feel like Coach Griner, we talk about your fabulous freshman, Davion Jones there. I think a couple more years, we might be talking about him in that same light too. So it's going to be a great game. I'm excited to see it. We got Evan Rambert and the magic magician, Katie Smith, on that side of the ball, who's made some big plays already in that Independence game. Whoever makes the bigger play in that out of those 2 guys, I think we're going to see them getting their hand raised at the end. So I'm excited. I can't be there, as of course I have other things to tend to, but this game I think is going to be walking this week.
Gary,
I want to know your thoughts,
my
Gary.
Thoughts. It's going to be a field position game, because neither team can throw the ball with any kind of consistency. Okay, so now the running game, not giving up the big play, no costly penalties, no turnovers. It's going to be like a war of attrition, But whichever team can get up by 2 scores and make the other team have to throw the ball, it's going to be the team that has the advantage, because neither one of them throw the ball very well. And I'm gonna tell Sam, you tackle that bubble screen, hey, you okay. You don't give up the big play deep, make them drive the length of the field. I don't think they can do it against your defense. But the same thing goes for you. It's gonna be a long field. If you don't turn it over, don't penalize. Got to make some plays. Both of the teams are offensively challenged when it comes to throwing the ball with any kind of consistency.
But Gary, you and I are the relative old guys here, and I'll use that relatively. New Bern last year won the state championship, and I don't think they threw the ball 28 times all year. They showed that you can win in big-time 4A football and not throw the football. Is that going to matter? I mean, has football changed? I mean, how do you see that?
It's changed. That was a unicorn game. You got to be able to throw the football to score points or get a lot of turnovers and play on a short field. So, when you have more talent, it's not as important. But I think, Grice mentioned earlier about Mallard Creek's depth. That has to be a concern of Sam. But Sam, they're not going to be faster than West Charlotte. Okay. And if West Charlotte can get up on them and turn them one-dimensional, they can beat them. But if Mallard Creek can line up and pound them and wear them down and not be forced to pass when they have to, but when they want to, it's going to be a long night for West Charlotte. But it's, if I was looking at it, I would say Mallard Creek is favored because they got more talent, but they don't have better talent. They have more of it. That's what it is.
They got the big old pot of stew, huh, Gary?
They don't have no gumbo now. They straight steak and potatoes. They straight steak and potatoes. They're going to line up and come at you. And then they're going to tell you to beat them coming, on a long play drive because they're not going to give up any long plays. The kicking game is very important too.
Yeah, I mean no doubt. I mean, like you said, it's a slobber knocker type game. West Charlotte has not. I mean, since I've been at West Charlotte, we have not beaten Mallard Creek. They are definitely the favorites in this game. 1-2 said what doesn't matter. Records go out the door in this game, and we have to be able to establish ourselves. And I think it's the battle of identities, who can impose their identity on the other team and play to that tempo of that identity. I think this is the first year that coming into a game, we always want to win our games in the past, but like before, I felt like we had to play like a miracle type game, and they had to play a pretty bad game for us to win. But we go into this game expecting to win. There's no doubt about it. We said coming into the season, we don't want to just be a 3A state or 3A champions in that conference. We want to be, conference champions. And to do that, it starts with the week 1 of the conference game versus Mallard Creek, who we have not beaten yet. And since I've been at West Charlotte, so I'm excited about the opportunity. I think playing on Thursday is, it's exciting because if you win, you can have a long, glorious weekend. But if you lose, you'll be, stick it in your head in between the pillows trying to figure it out for 3 days instead of 2.
It comes down to complementary football. And the offense can't put their defenses in bad position. When the defense gives the offense field position, they better score. And, you can't get beaten special teams. So it's a complementary game. Mallard Creek is great on defense. They got one of the best defenses I've ever seen. But their offense doesn't complement it because they can't score consistently. And so maybe this is their week to break out of that. I think your team has been more consistent when it comes to complementary football. And
since Grice does not pick the game, I want his opinion who he thinks going to win.
In the way that I do it, because I'm not going to break my rule. I think the team if the team that's closest to 200 yards of rushing is going to win the game. If someone can get close to 2 bills, it's the other team's not going to win. That, like you said, it's an identity game. If you look at that stat and that team that's closer, it's not one of those games where you're going to see a team that has a whole bunch of yards and can't pound it in there. Somebody gets the ball on the 10-yard line. I mean, it's take your gloves off. We're fighting for 4 plays to get there in that end zone. So, team that imposes their will and has the most rushing yards, and I'll say if you get over 200 yards, they're not losing.
Grice said what I was.
I
Grice
take
said what I
200
was
yards all
thinking.
day.
We've been talking about passing the ball the whole time. I think the team that rushes the ball the best wins this game. I didn't see Mallard Creek particularly run the ball very well against Buford. Now, don't get me wrong, Buford's got two guys on the defense that's top 30 in the country, but at the same time, West Charlotte, you pride yourself, Sam, on running the ball and doing it very well. So, I mean, this is going to be an interesting game. Of course, Langston has us picking the game. I'm gonna keep my pick concealed for now. That'll come out later, but yeah, I've grown to know both coaches very.
Cameron, I know who you're picking. I don't want you to pick it.
But, I've gotten to know both coaches very well, and so, it's a coin flip game for me.
All right, man. Hey, great breakdown on this game of the week between West Charlotte and Mallard Creek. Again, a Thursday night kickoff. Hey, before we get to our break, I'm going to go over the rankings this week. All the top rankings for the high school football season came out. I'm going to start with the 8-man. There you see right there, Wayne Christian. You want to talk about an 8-man juggernaut. They continue to just lead the state. Halifax Academy, Parrott Academy, John Paul II. Just kind of the typical teams that have really turned this 8-game football into some exciting brand of football. I'm going to say it again. I've been talking about it all week. 8-man football is really good football. So I encourage you guys to check it out.
Explain. So we have
basically think of it as
linemen,
7-on-7 with tackling, and you just have a center and a nose tackle. Trust me, it's really good football. It's really entertaining.
I'm looking for 8-man school.
Can we get some highlights and some gracious gems out of these 8-mans?
There have been a number of 8-man players that have been recruited to the Power 5 level here in the recent years. I think that it's really kind of taken on steam. So, I want to keep talking about 8-man football. But let's take a look at the private school rankings. We'll talk here with the big 11-man guys. I guess we're not. We're going to go. Well, we know Providence Day is number 1 in private, so no big deal there. But let's take a look here at the 1A rankings. Again, Mount Airy, the defending state champions, number 1. Tarboro, Robbinsville. Swain County, they did jump up to number 4, had that victory over 3A Tuscola Friday night. Swain is just really looking good. So Mitchell had a big victory over an Allegheny. Mitchell had the victory. Robbinsville beat Allegheny. Mitchell had the victory over Andrews. Andrews is kind of sneaking in right there in the 12-13 range right now. Murphy, Drawn, Thomasville. Drawn had the big victory over Chase on Friday night, so we definitely seen them guys move up the rankings. Thomasville's got the big game against Salisbury. We just talked about them. Mountain Island Charter, again, they look really impressive on film, so we'll continue to check them out. Let's take a look here at the 2A rankings, and we've already talked about Salisbury, but let's talk about Clinton. Clinton and what Coach Corey Johnson has put together down there in Sampson County. They just look phenomenal. They have already made it into the Carolinas top 25 ranking both states this year. Clinton, I think, can compete very easily on the 3A, probably the 4A level in this state. Take a look at them guys on Huddle. Again, the dark horses just getting it done. Salisbury, we mentioned Forest Hills, Monroe. We're going to see those two teams go at it here after a while later on in the season. East Duplin, defending state champions. Reedsville, Burns, Northeastern. Northeastern and Rocky Mount put on a basketball score here on Friday night. Nash Central, Whiteville still hanging on even after the loss to Clinton on Friday night. And let's move it on up to the 3A. Dudley, most of the teams, by the way, in the 3A, not a lot of action. About a third of the teams in the state of North Carolina had an open week last week, so not many of these teams even played one another. But Dudley, they still got them there, number 1, Crest, Kings Mountain, West Charlotte. None of those teams played Friday. 71st had the big victory over Hope County. Northern Nash just continuing to look impressive with a victory over D.H. Conley. Scotland County is a team that I really like. On film, Scotland looks really good. They're a little vanilla on the defensive side, so they are prone to give up some points. But I think you're going to have a hard time keeping pace with them if you get in a track meet with Scotland. Again, East Lincoln got the big game Friday night against Hickory. North Brunswick and Hoggart going at it here later on. And now let's get over to the Fight Club, the 4A Fight Club. We've all talked about that. Again, Grimsley number 1, Butler moving up to number 2 after the victory over Weddington. Obviously, I didn't move Weddington very far. They're coming in at 3, East Forsyth 4. Rollsville continues to impress. I know we don't have Alex on this week, but and he might be licking his wounds. Nick Drew obviously gave up quite a bit of points.
That's why he's not on. I got it.
Leesville Road, again, I think Leesville Road looks to be about the most complete team in the Eastern North Carolina Chambers, right there again. Chambers just all kinds of impressive on Friday night. Mallard Creek, again, we've talked a lot about them. You know, they even with the loss, they didn't drop far. I mean, Grice, any of you guys want to take it up right here? I think we've got some really good 4A teams.
Oh, without question. I mean, I think, you look down there even at 7 through 9 and just, those teams, even, they may not be where they've been in the past, but there still aren't teams that you want to see at all. I love Cleveland there. I think Jackson Bird, the quarterback there, is just an absolute dog in any game that they're in, especially as we get later in the playoffs. A guy that can spin the ball as well as he can is always going to keep you in that game.
And I'm glad you mentioned Cleveland. I was having a discussion with some coaches. We was talking about Eastern North Carolina football today when it kind of goes into the playoffs. And you think about it, there's some teams that their game just really translates very well into the playoffs. You look at a Cleveland, you look at a New Bern, Leesville Road, and I'll even throw Cardinal Gibbons in that mix. Those are going to be the kind of teams that I think are going to be really hard to beat when it gets really cold outside.
Yeah, Butler-Weddington was the best high school football game I've seen this year. I mean, it was like a chess match between the two coaching staffs. The kids were well prepared. The quarterbacks, both of them, a lot of moxie and leadership. Throw the ball between the hashes, not all these bubble screens and now passes. I mean, they were both well coached. It came right down to the end of the fourth quarter. That was a great game.
Yeah. I agree. Two great programs. But hey, guys, we're going to throw it to the break right here. Guys, make sure you're drinking your Deer Park water. Oh, well, okay. Hold on a second. Hold on. We got the graphic. Let's go ahead and stick to the private school 11-man group. There you see right there, Providence Day, number one. No surprise right there. They're the best team in both Carolinas, regardless of classification. Again, what Coach Chad Greer has put together. And, Dale talked about it earlier, and I just kind of want to continue what Dale's thought was. They have really had the goal to build a national program on what Chad Greer is putting forth. They're making that happen. Raven Gap right there. I can't wait to see those two teams go at it later on. Charlotte Christian, I know they had the loss this past Friday night to Calvary Day, but Charlotte Christian is just, again, a phenomenal football team. And then you kind of get in to this next level. You got Metrolina right there, who's a step down division-wise, Hickory Grove. Again, congratulations to Tad Balcom getting his 200th win over there at Hickory Grove, big time for him. And then you got a little bit further down there. You've got Christ School at 7. I know they haven't won a ball game, but Christ School, I still think is going to have their way, and they're going to be a factor in that top echelon when it comes to the conference play here in a few weeks in the private school. So we'll keep a lookout for them. And then you see Asheville Christian rounding out the bottom. But again, guys, we're going to take a break here at Talking Preps, looking at the Week 5 season. Again, make sure you guys are drinking your Deer Park water, and we'll get you on the other side of the break.
Deer Park is celebrating its 150th anniversary.
Deer Park, that's good water.
You can taste how pure Deer Park is.
Deer Park, that's good water.
Deer Park, that's still good water.
All right, man, here we are going into Week 5. You see the 3 men on the screen, so let's go ahead and lock the door and play that music.
Welcome to another edition of Thunderdome.
All right, man, here we are, Coach versus Coach, previewing the 5th week of the high school football season here on Talking Preps. I got my man, Coach Jonathan Grice. I got my man, Coach Sam Griner. Both of you guys have some big-time games coming up here this week. I wish we could talk a little bit more about those games. But anyway, it's time for Coach versus Coach. And Coach Griner, I know you're always going to defer. So, Coach Grice, this one here is going to you. We're going to receive first question. Should North Carolina go to regional play instead of conferences after it grows to 7 classes? You're up, Coach.
Yeah, I think this would be intriguing. So I love how, within South Carolina as compared to North Carolina, how they kind of have region play. And other states have adopted that model as well. I do think, though, instead, since we have going from the 4 classes to the 7, having conferences where you have people that are in 3A, maybe 4A, even 5A. Like take Sam's conference, for example. He could be in a situation where he could be the only team in 4A in his conference where you have a bunch of 7A teams, a bunch of 6A teams, and things of that nature. So I think, going the region play route where you have everyone in your classification will take an extra, 30, 45-minute ride potentially, in this area to go find and play teams that are in your classification, rather than what Griner had to worry about in the past, and where he was playing one game for 3A seeding. I just don't think that's fair when it pertains to being able to go out here and play teams in your classification to create really intriguing regions.
I disagree. Obviously, I would like to play in the conference. I like playing people close to the area. It's about territory, like. Let a dog roam and he'll find his way home. I don't want a daggone roam past my home. All right, dadgummit, I mean, the thing's done. Look, it changed my green screen in the background. Like, let me roam. We'll find our way home. But I don't want to go outside into a region, conference play. I want to go play the guys right down the street. The same people, we go to the restaurant, we see them, we say, hey, we're friendly, but when we get in between the lines, it's go time.
With the region, it's a smaller. So that's the thing. That's the other part about region play I like. You don't have as big a slate as you do for conference. So now, if I'm only playing 4 or 5 teams in my region, let's go schedule some of those teams. Let's really have a West Side Championship, Griner. That gives you the flexibility to build the teams that you guys want to play. Have a West Side Championship. Have it mean something. So week 5 before you go into region play could be the West Side Championship game. You guys have a trophy and go do this. Then you go in your region play and go get ready for playoffs. I just think the flexibility it provides allows people to schedule so many different people to where even though you think you might be missing this West Charlotte Mallard Creek game, you go out there and schedule it. If you really want it, go schedule it. You know what I mean? It creates that freedom to do what you want to do and have some games. One, it can help your bottom line because now this is like, only time we catch them, we don't have to play.
So you're saying we're playing 4 to 5 games, then we're gonna have 5 non-conference or 6.
Yes, the regions wouldn't be as big. You see it with South Carolina. The regions wouldn't be as big as conference, and that's the thing now in conference. You're basically playing a conference slate with a couple teams added on. It's your schedule is dominated so much by who you have to play, rather than having flexibility of going out there and scheduling those teams and building rivalries like you've been doing. You've done a great job with that, bringing back the Indy West Charlotte rivalry. You get the flexibility to kind of create that schedule so you can maintain those old rivalries, build up some new things, and really kind of enhance the quality of football and your schedule. Imagine you got a home game, you're out here scheduling a non-conference schedule. You go tell people we're playing the best, people in the city, doing that, and we're taking down our region opponents to go get ready to win 4A or 5A.
But that's what I feel like we're doing now. Like, our conference is unreal. And then our non-conference, we were like, you know what? What's a great team in Union County? Forest Hills. We called them up. They said, no chance. We don't want none of that smoke. And we're like, all right, Monroe's better than you guys. And we said, Johnny, let's roll.
Right, Sam.
You guys are great. Let's do it.
Hey, talking about a coach that wants to
Forest
smoke, I'm
Hills,
going to throw
turn
this
us
next
down.
question right here
camera.
back at you. Deion Sanders, he's all in it. Would Deion be successful and win as an NFL coach?
Yes. I mean, it's all about creating a culture in a way where people want to play to their best ability. Deion Sanders knows football. There's no doubt about that. He understands the game, and he gets the most out of the athletes around him. You rarely see that. Someone that was so great at the game, sometimes they can't break down the game. They were just so good at it that it's hard for them to break it down how good they were. Deion Sanders is different. I think he's like the Matrix. He sees green numbers. Everybody else is playing this game, and he just like looking back, catching bullets and just saying, nah, the bullet's not even there. He's doing things differently. He's creative. If he's in the NFL, I think he can do the same thing. I love seeing him on the college stage. He literally went to a Power 5 school, the worst one, and said, you know what? You look at me as a city guy. Let me get in the mountains. Let me put on a cowboy hat. Look what we can do. I love it. It's like the greatest thing for college football in general itself. So, yes, could he be great in the NFL? Yes, because he can motivate anybody, and he's good at what he does.
I'll even take what you just said, and I think for what you said is, to me, the reason. I don't think it's a matter of success on both ends. Anytime you're that great, success is a matter of time. I truly believe that. So you're not going to get me on this daggum internet talking about Deion Sanders and success aren't going to link. But what I'll say is he is going to be way more successful staying in college than he ever would going to the NFL. The fact of the transfer portal and really being able to instill his culture amongst guys that are not just there for a little bit of time, but you can get years of time in with multiple guys there. that's where his success is going to come from, and that's where it's going to remain. And I think that's one of the things that makes him so great is the ability to motivate people, but also create that culture. It's something that's so hard to do in the NFL because turnover is so big with contracts and drafting, and you really only get guys for a 1 to 2 year period. Whereas for college, you're able to grow and build your culture with some guys, because again, it's that middle tier guy who's going to be there 3 or 4 years that ain't great, who's going to be essential to your program continuing to be successful. So I don't think he could get all the guys, top guys he wants to get because of the salary cap. Like Gary even just said it. That's exactly what I was about to say.
Okay, salary cap. The salary cap, does that include money that they make for endorsements in the NFL? No. Like, who brings in more endorsements than Deion Sanders? If you're a part of his team, the way he can do things, I think more attraction comes with his team. If he's in the NFL, then all of a sudden the offensive guard that's the nasty guy, all of a sudden he's eating a bowl of daggone soup on Campbell's. Okay, like, I think he creates more money for everybody a part of the team, not just salary cap. But
that's that same speech he does. Give me my money on the contract signed with a daggone paper. Give me my daggone money, man. Let's move on for Lane.
Yeah, speaking about money and contracts, UNC, should they keep this contract going and keep their rivalry going with Appalachian State, Grice? I want to keep it here with you.
Yes, they should. And all you UNC fans in the back should be embarrassed about your head coach with the most softest comment I've heard from a head coach about not wanting to play App State because of the pressure and because it's too hard and they have nothing to lose. You want to go be dominant? Go beat them every freaking year. That's showing dominance there. And the fact that he wanted to bow out and say, oh, it's okay. And I know y'all love Mac, so I know what I say. I'm wrong. It's going to be a hater. It's probably going to clipped up and people going to hit my Twitter about how we're not doing good, just like the Charlotte fans did. But I'm telling the daggum truth. That was a soft comment. Go daggum beat App State every year. Get your dominance. You want to win recruiting every freaking year? Go beat them and show them you're not on the same level. That was so bad. Go beat them. Go beat them. The fact that you had to go out there and say that, at least hide it like some of these other schools do. Don't go out here and say that. That was terrible.
Yeah, there's no daggone way I'm backing this up. I'm agreeing with Grice. I'm not going against the coin on this. You cannot say that. You cannot be soft. Dadgummit. Yeah, Appalachia's been great.
It's hard.
It's a weird game for you. It's a hard, tough one. What did Rex Ryan say? I know we're good and we're better than you. I don't care if we're like, he sees a little bit curse words in there, but he's like, yeah, we're good. And I want them to know we're good, but then we still can't take whooping their tail. That's the whole point of UNC right here. You're a different level than Appalachian. You go up there and you take that game and you make them not want to play you anymore. That's the goal. You want them not to play. They say no mas. They can't get out of the ring. They're in the corner. They can't get off.
All right, man. That's another wicked coach versus coach.
No. We can't get off of this question without putting this man in the main shot.
Oh, I can't wait to hear this.
Yeah.
I use Sam and Grice. I got no problem with what they said. I think we should play them every year. If you are the state university, then you take on everybody in the state. I have no problem with what they said. None at all.
You got to turn your mic on, though, Dale.
He just saying he agrees with
us. Turn your mic on, Dale.
Go, Pack, go. That's all he's saying. Go, Pack, go.
You're muted, Dale. We can't hear you. You're muted.
Grinder made the most unbelievable point.
He said, hold on a minute.
Grinder made the greatest.
Yeah, I agree 100%. You got to, like Sam said, back them in the corner, pulverize them, and make App State beg to get out of any contract that they may still have. You don't walk away from what you view to be a lesser opponent. That means you're weak. So, yeah, I cannot agree with the statement.
I just think
I'm gonna hide the skeletons in the closet.
I think they said that Carolina was averaging like maybe one more point than Appalachian State and 2 or 3 more yards, and this is a fun game to watch. Yeah, Sam, you got some issues going on.
Oh, John Cena.
All right, so we got the big star in one shot. What you got, Sam? Final thoughts.
John Cena up in here. That gummit. I only got one thought. Win.
No more talking.
Thursday. Let's go.
Grice, you got a big game too before we get out of here. I know you guys haven't had the best start to the season, but how big a deal is this game with A.L. Brown, and what do you guys got to do to get on the good foot?
Yeah, well, it's
get on D.
It's our first home game. Brand new turf. unveiling that. They just put the uprights up today. So one thing I do know about this community is it's going to be rocking on Friday night.
It should be a fun game. Cam is going, right, Cam?
This is the first week out. I mean, with the games being on Thursday and Friday, I won't be at Sam's
Yeah,
game and I'll be at Grice's game. So this will be a fun week
as well.
CMS
We'll see.
schools are off for the Jewish holiday on Friday, so they're going to play on Thursday. So we got two night week football.
Yeah.
I ain't quite figured out
Let me
why
explain
we
it.
still work on Friday.
The holiday starts as dusk comes. So as the sun goes down, that's when the holiday starts. So if you're going to play the game at 12 o'clock.
Well, as much grading as we do in laundry,
You guys have to get days off as football coaches. People don't realize that's a 12-month a year job. It's pretty incredible.
Are the kids in school Friday?
I don't know. Okay.
Union County.
All right. Well, we got a big week of games. We'll be back next week to recap a big week of games. Hopefully, Sam can still talk and isn't too beat up when we see him next time. I don't know. Going over to Mallard Creek. I pick West Yard to win.
Okay. I know where you're going. Langston.
No, I pick West Yard to win. The pick's already in. I know what everybody.
Don't try to back up out now.
Sam wants a fight.
No,
that's what I like about Sam. He's not afraid. See, he wouldn't be Mac. He wouldn't tell. He wouldn't say, "I don't want to play App State." He'd say, "Doggone it, we should have beat them by more. We suck. We're going to do better next time. We're going to kick their tail." I love Sam for that. He doesn't back down.
He also
That's the only thing I
revealed
like about Sam.
his issues with Forest Hills earlier today. That's going to be clipped. I'm sure about it. Yes, you did say that on air. And it's staying on air.
Did I say that on air? Take it to the bank. They ain't gonna play.
All right, guys. This is another episode of Talking Preps. That's Jonathan Grice, the number 2 voice of high school football. That's the Guru Chris Hughes, the number 1 voice of high school football. Cameron Williams, the Guru in training. Gary Richmond. We're missing out.
I'm pulling from my heart for Forest Hills. Let me pick that game.
I did get a Nick Drew reference. I did hear a Nick Drew reference when I was in the back. That's Dale, the CMS historian. That's Sam Griner, who will say anything, anytime to anybody. I'm Langston, and we are Talking Preps.